Carib Nation. We are excited to continue our series featuring young people from the Caribbean. And tonight we feature young Jamaican leaders who are contributing to the world, contributing to Washington, D.C., and contributing to their countries, Jamaica and the Caribbean. Stay tuned. Carib Nation is up next.
You're watching Carib Nation Television.
Welcome to Carib Nation. Tonight we are so excited to be featuring young Caribbean leaders. And there is no shortage of leaders from the Caribbean, and especially no shortage of leaders from Jamaica. But tonight we're featuring some of three of the top leaders that I happen to meet and to be able to feature for this show tonight. Mr. Stuart Crooks, welcome Stuart. Ms. Karel Samuda, welcome. And Mr. Matthew McNaughton, who are all from the Caribbean and reside in the region, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and have been contributing to both the region and back home to their countries in Jamaica over the past few years. So Stuart presently works at an engineering firm in Baltimore, but was also one of the founding members of the DMV Caribbean Students Association. Karel is a PhD student at George Mason University in her fourth year, focused on public policy. And Matthew McNaughton works at the World Bank, involved in innovation and development, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about that, but also is one of the founding members and executive director of Slash Roots. So we are excited to learn about the work that these young people have been doing. So Stuart, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in Washington, D.C. or in the area?
Okay, well, I've been living here for a little over 5 years. I went to Howard University where I studied civil engineering, specialized in transportation, so I work at a transportation engineering firm called HNTB. Okay. I was the president of the Howard University's Caribbean Students Association my senior year, and some friends and I decided to, form a group called the DMV CSA, which is basically like a governing body for the CSAs in the area. I know there are a lot of Caribbeans in the DMV particularly. There are 300 plus members of Howard University CSA.
That's huge.
I know one major issue that I had in college was the fact that, being international, it was hard to get a job, an internship. So that's what we started out focusing on, trying to bridge that gap with professionals in the area and students. So we work a lot with, we have 15 schools under our umbrella. We work a lot with the students and, bridging that gap with the professionals.
Awesome. Wonderful. And Karel, tell us a little bit.
Sure. So I've been living in the D.C. area, it's been a while, since about 2004, so a number of years. I'm currently, by day, I like to say, a PhD student in public policy at George Mason University, and I'm really interested in looking at citizen participation and how it promotes accountability and transparency. And by night, I volunteer for a Caribbean Diaspora organization based here called the Institute of Caribbean Studies, where I am working to develop their youth programs initiative.
Okay, awesome. Matthew?
Sure. I guess similar to Karel, have day and night jobs. During the day, I work at the World Bank, where I focus on how do you leverage technology within development programs, both to kind of improve citizen engagement and ways that you can have development programs driven by the people who are benefiting from them. And in the night,
Not only in the night.
No.
No, not only in the nights. Well, yeah. since we're airing this. I work on an organization, a co-founded organization called the Slash Roots Foundation, which is a civic tech nonprofit based in the Caribbean that focuses on addressing development challenges, working with government, civil society organizations, but focusing on leveraging technology and citizen-centered design.
Right. Yeah. Now, Stuart, you mentioned that as you were involved in the Caribbean Student Association, and I'm sure most of us were involved in our Caribbean Student Associations on campus, there's a lot of Caribbean students, but not everyone steps into that leadership role. What do you think led you to step up into that leadership role as president, as, you know, forming an organization? What led that to happen?
Well, a number of things. So my uncle was one of the founding vice presidents of the Howard University CSA. So, you know, going to Howard was a big thing because a lot of my family went to Howard. So I felt like, you know, it was a legacy.
Okay.
Also, I was a student athlete. I played soccer, football for Howard. I tore both of my ACLs early in my career, and, you know, I had nothing to do. I was always involved with CSA though. It was, you know, a home away from home. And I, you know, took up my time. I didn't want to just be a regular member, you know, so I ran for the presidential position in my senior year.
Legacy, right? And Karel, you talked about getting involved and doing research on citizen participation. Tell me a little bit more about that, and why did you choose that area of interest or focus?
Yeah, so the idea of citizen participation is sort of to explore how citizens can become agents in helping to identify and be part of solutions that for problems in their communities. And I'm not sure, I think I sort of stumbled upon it really. I know I really started paying attention to the role of voice and how citizens were able to sort of voice their opinions when I sort of stayed at my mom's school. She works at a rural community in Jamaica, and she really engaged members of her community then, and I kept thinking, like, how do you sort of generate voice, how you get citizens to be involved in problems in their communities, and it sort of stuck with me. And then it was during the PhD program, I was like, oh, I think that's where I want to sort of focus.
So, and Matthew, tell me a little bit about Slash Roots, right? Because as Karel talked about voice and getting citizens involved, I understand Slash Roots has something similar involved in your mission.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Slash Roots itself was really started from a motivation of, well, one, how do we support the development of the technology ecosystem in the Caribbean? But then as we're doing that, how can we leverage these increased capacity, increase interest, increase resources, and opportunities that technology presents to solve the development issues that exist in the region. And the approach to that is based on the premise that, I mean, we are all very well aware of just the challenges that exist in the region, and that, to be quite honest, there's no single government or, you know, civil society or private sector organization that can solve them in isolation. And so it's more about how do we create a space for more people to participate in solving those problems and, you know, contributing in meaningful ways.
So you said that we're all very aware of some of the challenges in the Caribbean right now, but I feel as though I may not be as aware as you think I am. I'm not sure. But I'd love to hear from you all. What do you see as one of the biggest challenges either facing Jamaica or the Caribbean right now? And how are you hoping to get involved to address that challenge or those challenges?
Well, with Jamaica particularly, I know our biggest issue is corruption. I don't think there's any one way of ultimately solving corruption. However, for me, I know there's a shortage of jobs in Jamaica. And with my degree, at transportation engineering, I plan to go back home and use my skills honed here and help improve the Jamaican infrastructure. And in doing so, you know, we'd help to make more jobs, for skilled laborers and so forth. And I feel like, once people have independency, it'll be easier for them to steer away from certain things.
Like corruption.
Right.
I see. Okay, wonderful. Carell?
Yeah, so I'm going to stick to my theme of citizen participation, just because I've been spending so much time on it. But I think that what we're lacking, or we need to sort of embrace a little more, are different mechanisms for citizens to be engaged. I think we've been so used to sort of this top-down approach of finding problems finding solutions to our problems, and sort of recognizing that communities, citizens, they do sort of have ideas of how to solve some of their issues. So how do we create that space and that platform for them to be active, sort of to be at the table? So I think working, it sort of falls under, Matthew would probably know better, the World Bank, this good governance agenda, and sort of promoting this voice and accountability platform for citizens.
Okay. Cool. Matthew?
I mean, it's coincidental that Carella and I are right after each other. But I mean, I think that's fundamentally what it is, right? It's it's creating space for dialogue and participation, and that differs in different areas. Right. For example, we've been working a lot in Prairie de Larceny with the Rural Agriculture Development Authority in Jamaica, and that is such a huge problem. I mean, annually, cost the Jamaican economy something like $52 million US. But it's such a complex problem that it touches, it touches the police, it touches the Jamaica Agriculture Society, it touches the extension officers, there are community dynamics at play. There are a multitude of partners that you have to collaborate with to effectively address the solution. And so it's a question of how do we collaborate? Like, there's like technology that can facilitate some of those things, but then there's a posture of collaboration and discourse that sometimes is lacking. But how do we do that?
And I guess in the Caribbean, we have CARICOM, which facilitates or is supposed to facilitate collaboration across the Caribbean. But in reality, we rarely see true collaboration and partnership across our islands, or even when you look at governments, there's parties that definitely don't collaborate on a lot of stuff. So it's so good to hear from you guys that collaboration is one of the big pieces, and collaboration with people is one of the big pieces that you're moving forward with. And I'm sure that we're in good hands with these three leaders at the table. But I'm curious to hear, what is one of your biggest accomplishments that you've achieved, let's say, over the last 5 years?
We've had 2 conferences. We've made at our annual staple event. And our last conference, we had about 150 students.
Wow.
Yeah, complete sponsorship. It was a great turnout. A lot of people have been anticipating the next one. And, seeing that from the beginning to the end, that was probably my proudest moment.
Good stuff. Anybody else? Matthew?
Wow. I think as it relates to the region, probably one of the things that I guess I'm probably most proud of with Slash Roots is these kind of 2 initiatives that we do in collaboration with a number of partners across the region. The first is the Developing the Caribbean Open Data Conference and Code Sprint. And it's an event that we organize simultaneously across multiple islands.
Oh, wow.
This year we did it in 5 islands. So it was in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Guyana. And, I think just from an organizational point of view, I think just the different teams collaborating, the different organizations that are involved, just being able to learn from what some of the other teams that they're doing. I mean, in Guyana, their prime minister came to the event. He was on campus on the day, and he walked into the event, and that was awesome. I mean, that wasn't planned. But I think, things like that, I think, show that as a region that we can collaborate. And the event itself is premised on, different islands sharing common problems. And, engineers or developers or designers in Trinidad can work on a problem in Jamaica, and vice versa. And we can break down that Caribbean Sea and those language barriers if we try hard enough.
Awesome.
For me, I'm going to put on my volunteer hat. I think for me, it's been working with the Institute of Caribbean Studies for the last maybe 5 years to host an annual Caribbean American Youth Leadership Forum. It's held every June during Caribbean American Heritage Month. And we've partnered with multilateral organizations here in the DC area. This year, we partnered with the Inter-American Development Bank, their youth programs, to host it. And what's really neat about the program, what we try to do is we highlight, we sort of invite experts that we say on some identified issue to talk about opportunities for young people. And then we have a panel that focuses on young people who are doing work either in the community here in DC or in the Caribbean. So last year we had some fabulous young ladies who are working in Haiti, sort of post the reconstruction and working on youth issues. We had another young lady from Trinidad who does an arts development program, not only in Trinidad, she's actually doing it in other islands. And a young man who's working on sort of what he calls sort of this reggae revival movement happening in Jamaica. So you know, it's another avenue like what we're having here to highlight young leaders in the region.
What young people are doing. So, as a young person watching this show, what would be one message you would want a young person to leave with to think about how they can engage in leadership or how they can engage in their communities?
I mean, I'd have to say, especially from my experience, you know, perseverance, definitely, you know, working even through the toughest of times. You know, right now I know Jamaica particularly, it's hard. I have friends that graduated a few years now and still haven't found a job. So I know it's perseverance and diligence, you know, and to just stick with it and know your worth.
Yeah, for me, I would say don't be afraid to take that unbeaten path. It's lonely sometimes, and when you decide to sort of go out on your own and do something that not everyone is doing, but I think there are opportunities there, both here and in the Caribbean, to sort of do something that's different or that's not being done a lot. And the second thing is find a mentor, find somebody who's sort of doing something that you'd like to do or who can help you on that unbeaten path.
I think similar, I would say both the role of mentors is really important. I think often in the region, sometimes it's very difficult for us to take criticism. And I think finding someone or a group of persons that you trust and that you can kind of go back and forward with is really important. And then kind of looking at having that mentorship role, but then also looking at just the role of hard work. I think, you know, often we talk about this idea, and everybody hustling, struggling, you know, that type of thing. But I think the things that make people successful and the hours that you have to put in, I think are often underestimated. And just having that mentorship role, but then having that willingness to really put in the hours, I think are probably the two most important things.
Awesome. So, we live in this era with internet, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, plus you work at organizations or in school, plus you volunteer, plus you're involved in the DMV, Caribbean Student Association, planning conferences. How do you find the time to do all of this work amidst the constant social media and constantly being on with technology? How do you do it? Successfully? How do you stay focused?
I mean, I'm young.
You're young.
You know? Time management really is key, though. Even with work alone, there are some nights I don't get out of the office till maybe 9:30 in the night. But you know, that's why you have a team. You know, to collaborate with. You know, I don't think anyone can really do it on their own. You know, but time management definitely is key, and you learn that through college. You know, being involved with different organizations and then having your classwork tests to study for. You really do learn. And for me, you know, being an athlete too, you learn how to manage your time well.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Time management is key. I think also like finding time to sort of tune out and sort of unplug. For me, that's early mornings. I don't check my phone. I don't. I just sit, either meditate a little bit or read the newspaper, the actual newspaper, and then sort of say, okay, what's my day going to be like? Lists are my friends, and calendars, and then just sort of managing the time.
I think what I'd want to plug on is something Stuart just mentioned a while ago, which is teams. I think you can't scale yourself. There are only 24 hours in the day, and if you really want to do like big impactful things, like having a team of people that you work with that are just as compassionate and kind of dedicated to the ideas are really important. And I think that's when you can really do stuff, when you can scale from yourself to a team to creating an organization or institution that is pulling in a particular direction. I think that's probably one of the things that I enjoy the most about Slash Roots is just the group of people that are working on it, and all doing 2 or 3 jobs just to try and make it happen.
So who are your biggest supporters? Who holds you up aside from that team? Who else supports you?
Probably the biggest, kind of the most influential organization in kind of making things happen has been the Mona School of Business and Management. Before joining the bank a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was there doing a number of projects, most of which have continued, but being able to collaborate, continue that relationship of collaborating with them, also just from a institutional learning point of view and kind of just building on top of each other's ideas. That's been really valuable for almost anything that Slash Roots has done up to this point.
So who keeps me going?
Who's your biggest supporter?
It has to be my family, my mom and my sisters. Sort of they know when I'm in a funk and they know what to do to sort of help me get through. My friends are also really, they know sort of when not to trouble Carol because she's busy, but they know when to sort of say, Carol, it's time for you to stop. Sort of friends and family.
I'd say my parents. My father motivates me without even knowing. He's definitely been a steady role model in my life. And as any of my friends will attest to, my mother is my biggest supporter. She's my cheerleader. In high school, she'd come to my games and cheer for me. My mother is definitely my biggest supporter. That's my foundation. But with regards to my organization, the 2 main influences are Gabriel Christian and Althea Mackenzie. They've stuck with us. Well, Althea has been with us since the birth of the DMV-CSA. Gabriel came on board last year, but they've been very influential, giving us advice, telling us when we're wrong, criticism again. But they're definitely been very influential for us.
Oh, wow. And so, as we get ready to wrap up, I'd love to know from you guys, are you looking for interns? Are you looking for volunteers? Are you looking for people to support your work? What are you looking for right now?
So we'd really appreciate sponsorship, because we're catering to students, poor students. So, the more sponsorships we can get, the less they'll have to pay out of pocket. I know we've as friends, we've contributed a lot just to be able to host the event for the students. But sponsorship would really help us. As well as most of us have graduated, so we're looking for people interested in taking our mantle. I mean, we're not passing it on, but just to help being a liaison with schools and so forth. We'll have work as well. So definitely, I guess those will be interns.
Okay. Yeah, definitely sponsorship and people to help support, as well as people to run for positions to take the next lead of the organization. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, the same thing. We're always looking for volunteers. Always, we always have work. Visit our in the Institute of Caribbean Studies. Google and you'll find our website, and then you'll find ways to contact me if you're really interested in our youth programs, or you have ideas that you want us to share.
What about with your studies? Are you looking
Yes.
for
Oh,
people
yes.
to-
Anybody who's interested or who has knowledge about citizen participation, who is willing to help fund my research, that would be awesome. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
I think it's similar of both. I mean, organizational, we're definitely trying to find funders as well to kind of scale up some of the work that we're doing. Up to this point, we've been focused a lot on agriculture, extension services in collaboration, RADA and Prairie Larceny. So we'd like to be able to continue that. I think the other side of it is really just, I guess, people who are either have a focus area of or agriculture, or you're a developer or a designer and you'd like to be able to work on actually impactful problems, or definitely always looking for people to plug into that as well. So
I'd like to. I mean, we are an official 501c3,
Oh,
so
my donations are tax deductible. This is good. That's awesome. So, 3 words that describe your, I don't know, passion for what you do right now, right? Just 3 words that you want to leave our audience with.
Service-oriented, agency, and voice.
Oh, beautiful.
I mean, 3 words.
I really stumped you guys with that question. You could give 4 or 5.
Community service and passion for the community. I mean, that's what we're about.
Yeah, so service to your core.
open, collaborative, impact.
Impact.
Yeah.
I like
All
that
right.
Yeah.
So, with those community service, impact, open, collaborative, we've heard a lot of that tonight, but we have, just learned so much about you 3 and are so excited about the work that you're going to be doing for Jamaica and for our region and for the Caribbean. And I am so proud to say that I am Caribbean and share you as part of my future and our legacy, right? So let's say thanks to our guests, Stuart Crooks, Karel Samuda, and Matthew McNaughton. Tonight on Carib Nation, we have really gotten to experience these young people in a new way. We are one Caribbean, one culture, one people, one nation. This is Carib Nation. Thank you.